Do you wake up every day pumped to work on your business? You sit down at your computer, you have a list a mile long of things to do for your business, but you have no idea if they are actually moving the needle forward or if they're just helping you feel like you got quote unquote something accomplished today. When I first started my business, I remember thinking multiple times, well, now what? So I would go to a Facebook page, ask my questions, or I would search Google only to get 20 different answers. Being who I am, I would try to do them all. But they were not moving my business forward. They were just stressing me out. I have decided to create a membership for other pro organizers that can be like a real estate office. We all have our own business, but we can meet at the office for support, guidance, and inspiration. So the monthly membership will start in January 2023, and more to come about that later. But for now, we are doing bi-weekly coaching calls for everyone to work on their business together. On November 30th, December 14th, and December 28th, we will meet on Zoom for 1 hour, so come prepared to ask those questions and work on your business. This program is free until 2023, and then we will explain the membership in more detail. Set your calendars, then go to proorganizerscoach.com/support or click on the Support Equals Success tab at proorganizerscoach.com to fill out the quick form, and we will see you on November 30th. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at proorganizerscoach@gmail.com. Now let's get on with today's episode. You are listening to the Pro Organizers Coach podcast. I'm Samantha Brown, a professional organizer and business coach. In this podcast, you will learn how to start and scale the organizing business of your dreams. So let's jump in. So welcome back to the Pro Organizers Coach podcast. On today's episode, I have Vanessa and Shana from My Ideal Balance, which is a life coaching studio in Florida. And so I wanted each of them to just kind of say hi so you can hear who is who. So who's Vanessa and who's Shana?
I'm Vanessa.
I'm Shana.
They have an actual studio where they help coach mainly women on their fitness. They coach with family stuff, finances, and that's all life coaching done in the studio. But then they are also professional organizers that go into the home. And so for them, having a level 10 life is what is important. So Vanessa and Shana, what is a level 10 life?
So the level 10 life started when, you do your life wheel and, you have the categories of your spiritual, your physical, your home, your marriage. Those are the ones we use. And you rate yourself 1 to 10. We do that with our clients, but we don't really stay where they're at very long. We immediately try to cast the vision for what is it going to look like for you to be at a level 10, because that's what we're after. That's what we're here for. So if you're at a level 10 with your home, for example, what does that look like? What does your home look like? How do you feel in your home? What systems do you have in place? What does your closet look like? Whatever, all of that stuff, like cast that vision for level 10. And so we work through every area of your life to get you there.
Yeah. And the idea is that level 10 is different for everyone, right? So what might be a level 10 for Shana is different for me, and so on and so forth. So we like to, like Shana said, assess people where they're at and then figure out, okay, that's good, but we're going to move forward. And what does that level 10 look like? So we know how to get you there. And it may be just 1 or 2 steps, whereas somebody else, it may be 5, 6, 7 steps.
Well, and the other thing it does is it keeps people from not declaring the win. So a lot of times we stay in the zone of pretend like we're making progress.
The mindset.
Yeah. And it's like, no, this is what the win is. And instead of just staying confused or staying stuck. And you have to say, no, actually, if I go on a date night every week with my husband, that's what a level 10 is like for me. And that's achievable because there's so many of us. You're never happy. It's not good enough. We don't allow that.
So real quick with the life wheel for all of you listening that have not been certified as a life coach, the idea of a wheel, and when you first do a consultation as a life coach with your clients, it has different categories. And so you rate it from 1 to 10 of where you are now. And then they are saying that the way they help their clients is by going ahead and then saying, okay, now what does a 10 look like for you? Like if you're at a 7 now, what makes it a 10? And then that's how they help them focus, whether it's through the life coaching, the organizing, whether it's your physical space or your mental. Yeah, I think that's amazing. And I love the name, My Ideal Balance, because it's your whole body, your whole life, everything. And it's good to be balanced, right? Like as women, we get very unbalanced all the time. Like we don't give ourselves credit enough of the time for the things that we are doing. We just jump straight into, okay, what's the next thing? Like, what do I need to keep doing? Like, it's not good enough yet. I think that that's phenomenal that you guys are doing that and that you're offering so many services. So how long have you all been partners in business and doing all of this?
Well, we've been friends since our boys were 4 and they're now about 14.
Yeah, 10 years.
So 10 years we've been friends. We spoke about it in 2019. We officially created our business of April 1st. So April Fool's Day, 2020, smack dab in the middle. So that was a great way to start a business.
Great thing.
So what are your all's backgrounds in?
So my degree's in business management. I was a manager at Publix. I was a teacher for 5 years. And I've always been very interested in health and nutrition and finances. She gave me a book 10 years ago and said, hey, we read this, you read it. And it was the Dave Ramsey Total Money Makeover. I read it and I was hooked. And that kind of changed my life in a way to want to help others eventually down the road. So
my background, I was in the Air Force and then I was a journalist for a while. I have a couple degrees that I don't really use. I stayed at home with my kids, and my first career after that for a while was to be a coach, like a personal trainer. And I noticed every time I was trying to personal train, just because of how God has designed me, it's not necessarily every personal trainer, but it was like, why am I talking to you about your problems with your husband? Like, this is not correct. I'm not qualified. Or why am I trying to get you to get your house in order so you can get your butt to these sessions because I'm really tired of you being late or whatever.
Excuses.
Yeah. So it just turned into, okay, there's so much going on. And they think a lot of times people think fitness will solve all of that, but there's so much else going on. So it just became life coaching. We decided to do it together because we both are nerds about all of this stuff together.
Well, and honestly, I'm super jealous. Like I wish I had a partner sitting next to me because when you're a one-woman show, it is so much stuff, right? Like the online stuff, the business stuff, the taxes, the actual organized, like there's so many things. That's amazing. You all have support or someone to talk about and like bounce ideas off of, or like, hey, I'm better at this and you're better at that. I really love the fact that there are 2 of you. And so when you all do actual organizing sessions, do you guys go in together or is it kind of one of you or the other? How does that work?
So home organizing is the one thing we get to do together, right? So when you're life coaching or, financial coaching, when we're doing our program, it's one-on-one normally. And we do our workshops and stuff together. We do speak together, but home organizing is something that we get to work on together as a team. And we love it.
Our values are completely aligned and we have some other similarities, but then when it comes to our strengths and like Vanessa's very proper and I am the least proper person that you've ever met and all that. So we fill in each other's gaps and that's godsend. Obviously, right. We're very, very grateful for that. I don't do math in public. She just told me this morning she enjoyed statistics class in college. Like that's dumb. We're the same when it comes to our values, which is important, but then all of our strengths are kind of different. So
yeah. And I mean, like you said, that's something only God can do, right? Like you guys just happen to meet, your boys happen to be the same age. You just happen to live near each other, and so that really is a blessing to have someone in your life, not just a friend, but also a business partner. Compared to for a lot of us, it's just a one-woman show. Do you guys find that there's ever like tension in that kind of stuff? Or is it normally just kind of like, or is it like sisterly love and you just kind of, yeah.
I only have one brother, and she was an only child. So either one of us never had a sister.
We have learned real quick.
Yeah. So, I mean,
I was mad at her this morning because I asked her on a scale of 1 to 10, how much are we going to start our day off at the beach? And then we'll come and have our first meeting. And she said, I'm down for whatever. And I said, no, that's not an answer. I'm going to go without you unless you put a 10. Like, obviously you have to put it on the scale. It's taken a while.
And I was like, girl, I'm already dressed. Like, I know you want to go, so we're going. Like, that's what, and I told her, like, my scale was not a 0. It's, I knew you wanted to go, so I was going to do that for you because, and that's, I think the hard part sometimes is we are very much business partners, but we're friends first. And so like a couple weeks ago, we had a girls' day where I went over to her house and we did hair and makeup and we laid out and we watched a movie and, we went out to lunch and we just had a friends' day to remember, like, that's the reason why we got in business. Because if you lose that, and we have a couple times and we can tell, like, rewind a little bit.
Yeah. And then as far as the business, so we do try to, like, for the most part, separate so that we don't both have to make every decision, because that would be exhausting and draining.
Yeah.
So, she does all of our finances and all of that, those decisions she pretty much makes. Once in a while, she might ask me or whatever. And then I do a lot of the content and stuff, and then she'll review it or edit it. But like, so because yes, so it's a blessing and a curse in that you have 2 people to do it, but then if you have to run everything by 2 people, you're never going to make any progress.
Yeah.
So we have some stuff like that. When it comes to the actual sessions, that has been interesting to find the balance. Like, we have our own system. I know everybody has their own like system, but when you have 2 people to do it, then there's a lot that you kind of have to figure out and work out. Yeah.
Well, I think it also, like, even when we do home organization, we still have our own strengths, right? So when we go in there, I think we've finally fine-tuned what each of us does while we're there to make it go faster and more efficient and just make it flow better all together. So it's definitely getting more streamlined every time.
Yeah. It's honestly like a marriage, right? Like where the first year is, sorry for the word, but like it's hell on earth sometimes because you may get your feelings hurt or you may say something wrong or like you may take something wrong. But then after that first year, you start realizing and being like, okay, like you did, you went to the beach in the morning because she wanted to. It wasn't that you necessarily wanted to, but you were going to do it no matter what. You knew that would make her happy, and like finding that compromise in your marriage, like it's hard. I've been married 15 years now. We just now are getting to the point where we'll look at each other and be like, okay, can we just stop fussing? Like, can we just stop?
I heard on a podcast a while ago, they were about to get in a fight and she's like, but I'm supposed to leave for the gym. And if I don't go right now, I'm not going to have enough time to get back and do whatever. And she's like, okay, it is not efficient to have any fights with my husband ever. So how can I just breeze past this, swallow it? You're right. It's fine. And like, she was just saying, it's not, I don't have the time for conflict in my life. And I was like, that's really good. So good.
And it's so true, especially as business owners with it being conflict, right? Because like anytime even I'm fussing with him or my kids or anything I'm doing, which we all know that unfortunately we have to go through and we have to deal with, kids or teenagers or husbands or whatever. The longer I stay doing that, the less time. And so I've gotten to where I come in and I'm like, I'm just going into the office. I'm going to go in the office. I'm going to shut the door. I was in here at like 2 a.m. the other night editing a podcast because I was wide awake. And I'm like, well, instead of actually laying here fussing with you, I'm going to go get some work done. So, I mean, it really is a lot like a marriage. And I think that that's fascinating because a lot of women that are just starting out might kind of think, oh, I'd love to have a partner. Like, I'd love to have somebody, kind of like I said earlier, where it seems great from the outside. And I'm sure it is for you all because God led you to each other. But I think if it had been a forced thing, of like, oh, we're starting a business, so we might as well do it together, or like it hadn't been meant to be, it might be a lot harder than we realize.
Everyone told us it was a bad idea. Every book you read is a bad idea. All the mentors say it's terrible, don't do it. But I think it all came down to, like Shana said, our values and everything that we believe in is the same. And so I think that, and God was the reason why we went into business. Literally, we have a whole God story as to why we started. And that's a whole nother podcast in itself. It is hard, but you have to know it up front and you have to find that person that compliments you. Find that person, like you said, that you were led to do business together. Yeah. And if it was forced or put on you in a different way, like, I just don't know if that's probably the right reason to go into business together.
Well, and like the other part of it is we are a partnership, but having a team, like that's doable, right? Hiring someone to come with you. But I mean, when we go, we have so much fun together. Like that's like our fun time.
Right.
You don't have to think about like, and how I'm just here making this space beautiful.
We are literally disconnected from our business for those
and our families and everything.
Hours,
We don't even have our phone around. So And we just have fun, and we tease our clients a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
We love them.
You know how you get to know
Yeah.
you really get to know someone when you're in
Oh
there.
yeah.
And how many times have we been like, no, we'll just put that secret item. It's fine. I didn't see anything. It's fine. So it's a lot of fun. So I think we get a lot more done. I guess I would have to look and see at other people and how much they do, but having two people, and when she mentioned Dave Ramsey, he says donkeys don't run with thoroughbreds or whatever. I don't even know what he says, but thoroughbreds run with thoroughbreds. So this is important. Like, you have to be equally yoked. She's never going to work harder than me, and I'm never going to work harder than her, because we're annoyingly like competitive like that. Or not it's not even competitive. It's just like, you're going to put 100% in, and there's no question. That's one of our values, like hard work, So when we're there, we just get so much done, and we have fun, and it's nice.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it has its positives and it has its drawbacks, but I think that, just looking at it, for the ones of us that are doing it on our own, it's kind of like, we see the partners out there, and I thought it would be super interesting to talk about that. Now, when it comes to a client that comes into like your studio, like let's say I walked in off the street and I was like, I want to be balanced in my life. Would it be both of you sitting down with me to figure out who works better?
I usually do the discovery calls or consultations or whatever you say. People call them different, but I'm usually the one doing those, and then I'll pretty much assess where they need to be. We have recently hired 2 new coaches, so we are currently not taking any more one-on-one clients, where we are farming it out to our other coaches right now.
Because we have a program, right? So that's like we've been doing it for 2.5 years, what we were coaching. So now we can put that into a system. It's not, we figure, how you figure out, figure out what works, how to get clients results the fastest. So our system is now really what's doing it. It's not, as much as we like to think we're super great, and it's not. We've watched our coaches do what we say, and they are having the exact same like
results,
breakthroughs, and mind blown and all that stuff. So it's not us,
but it's the system that you all figured out, which, is amazing. And that's what matters, is finding those systems so we can hire help, or so we can bring other people in. Because if not, like we can't do it all forever by ourselves. We can for a time frame. I talk about that a lot in the podcast, is like finding your why. Like, why does this matter to you? Because there are going to be days that you want to throw your hands up and be like, I quit. I'm done. I'm just walking away. I'm going to get in a job. And then, there are other days that you're like, I'm amazing at this. Like, I have got this, but knowing your why, it gives you something to come back to no matter what you're hit with that day.
Yeah, we like to start our weekly Monday meeting with our vision and our why. And we think it's really important to always keep that in sight.
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually a good idea. I need to put that on the wall right in front of me so I can, just randomly see it. And yeah. So how many do you all have on your team now, like total?
Yeah. So just 4 people, Shana and I, and then the 2 ladies that we brought in.
Nice. How has that been? Because I'm actually curious, because a lot of organizers at some point are going to have to hire, like we were talking about, executive assistants or people that are beneath you, but you still need them to see your vision and bring it along with you.
It has been awful.
Don't ask us how many assistants we've had.
Yeah. We decided
donkeys and thoroughbreds don't run together.
Yeah.
So if you're going to find an executive assistant or anybody else, it is going to take time to find another thoroughbred. A very long.
And you're probably doing wrong. We went through 3 or 4.
So many things wrong.
God bless it. We did so many things wrong. We also have hired coaches too that didn't work.
Personal trainers. Yeah.
So it's fine. And what is the lesson? What is the takeaway is you have to find people that are completely in alignment with you. And there are a lot of different ways to figure that out. Luckily, right now, the ones that we've found, we've known forever. So that helped. We know one lady from church. I know one lady from a long time ago because I worked with her husband. And so we just already know them. It's like us, like we were friends and now we're business partners. And who would it be fun to work with? Right.
Yeah.
Other people hire from wherever and that might work for them. It has not worked for us. No.
Yeah. Which, is a good lesson. Like recently I've been looking into editing for the podcast. I'm like, okay, that's something that I can take off of my plate. First off, the amounts of money that people are charging. And then when I look at the list of what they're willing to do for that amount of money, I'm like, hold on, I can do that and I can do it better. But like you said, it's finding the balance, who can get it done and still to your standards, because when it's yours, like the standards matter.
That's why they have to be aligned with your values, because it's not even the standard. Obviously, we all have high standards, but it's also the nuance. Like, you would take that word out of the podcast because your people don't want to hear it, or they do want to hear, or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, like the values that your brand is espousing. And then sometimes these people that you're contracting out, they don't have those values, or they don't understand that nuance. That can be troublesome.
So did you guys contract out people, or did you hire them and then have to go through the whole firing process?
We have independent contractors. We would love to someday have employees, but the cost associated with that right now is just too high, and it's just not something that we can take on at the moment. But that is the ultimate goal. You have more control over your employees. There's certain things and criteria that you can ask of them,
and all that kind of stuff.
Scheduling and things in the agreement or whatever. Whereas independent contractors, technically, you are their client.
They work for themselves. So you are the client hiring them.
Right. And they have to actually send you legally a invoice for the end of the month of their work.
And you can't tell them when you need them to work. They can tell you basically
their schedule.
But so for us, that's actually working because we don't work nights, but our coaches do. So that gives a great balance in our calendar. The other part of our story, next time we can come back on, is we're debt free. Like Vanessa said, we do profit first. We have a lot of financial things, which means we have to be careful how we are going to do anything that requires money, which is contractors and employees.
Right. Yeah. And that's where I was kind of wondering too, only because as an organizer, when you're first starting a business, the overhead cost, or even as a life coach, a lot of times the overhead cost is not normally as much as someone starting a studio, and then on top of that, there's two of you that have to be paid and, those types of things. And so, I mean, I commend you all for like making it work and getting through these first few years and figuring out those little things. And like you said, now you have a system. Now things are streamlined. Now you know what you want, and you have people that can come along and support you. And each one of the things that we learn from those, not mistakes, because hiring and firing different people is just part of the process of finding your people.
Yeah. Failing forward. Well, and we have so much patience.
Sarcasm.
So when we look at where we've been, where we've come through our business, we wanted it all the day after, right? So we started our business April 1st. We wanted it all April 2nd. So of course, like any entrepreneur, it's like, but when is it? And it just, the reality is it's there, it's coming all in time. And I remember one coach saying, if you got all of your clients, if you had the amount of business that you wanted tomorrow, would you be ready for it? So the reality is no, you're building, God is getting you ready and creating your plan, making your business better, tweaking it along the way. So that way, when this huge flood of business comes, you're prepared, because if it does come and you're unprepared, you have to turn them away anyways.
I walked through a season with God where he was teaching me about the roots of trees. And like, the farther the root system goes, that's under the ground and that's in the dark, so to speak, and the hard stuff, the taller and wider and bigger the tree can stand. But it takes time for that seed to turn into a root, for then it to grow. And it's a really good metaphor of just like knowing that today's issues and trials have a purpose for tomorrow's greatness and wealth. And, us being able to have all of our dreams come true. It's like we tell our clients, or at least I tell my organizing clients all the time, it gets worse before it gets better, but it will get better if you keep on going. Like there's always going to be those obstacles, or it's going to look like a mess, but just keep going and it will become organized and pretty. And I mean, it's the exact same way in business. And so, on that note, I think that's a good reminder for anyone listening. If you're in a season or in a moment or a day of struggle and stress and trials, to remember that this is getting you ready for those clients that are coming, for those days of joy and happiness, all of your dreams coming true. It is around the corner and it's out there, but you have to keep going to be able to get there and know that today's issues and struggles have a purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. One way that we kind of say that is to trust the process, right? Because when you get in those moments and you're emotional, like, and you want to quit, or you just want to rationalize bad behavior or whatever, like, you don't have to go down that rabbit hole. You don't have to come up with any solutions on your own. Just trust the process that you're in. And that goes for anything, because it's all gets messy. Like when you're trying to lose weight and you go back up on the scale and you're like, how did that happen? Or you freaking accidentally landed at Chick-fil-A instead of your salad or whatever, you know what I mean? Like those messes. And then obviously with the financial stuff, that can get very messy before it gets cleaned up, just like you're talking about with organization. Just pre-decide to take the next step, to keep trusting the process, do the actions, you'll get there.
Yeah.
But you just have to free yourself from the, like, in the moment deciding or anxiety or will I, won't I, or whatever, and just keep going. Yeah.
Yeah. I love action over thought any day of the week. When I start thinking, I've got issues. Just let me go do, and I will be fine.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's probably why we love this job so much. It's doing and it's being productive, and it's great feeling. It's a great feeling for the clients, but also for us.
Yeah. And helping them and seeing the progress, seeing and like watching their hands go up with the light bulb moments, and just like, we get bumps, we get chill bumps, and we get teary eyed, and it doesn't ever get old. Tuesdays is our days that we have back-to-back one-on-one clients. We try to walk at the end of the day of that together and just kind of wrap up and like, hey, how are your clients and how are your sessions? And we try to kind of work through things if we still have questions or if there was a hard session or whatever together. But we are so blessed with our awesome clients, and we love to share our stories with each other, and it just keeps us going.
Yeah. And with coaching, our organizing clients is whenever we're talking something out, a lot of times that will help even more than having the actual organizational piece, but you can't see it. So also trusting that process of when you are working with clients, if you're present in that moment with them, just know that it helped them, and like trusting that process that you not only physically helped them, but you also mentally helped them, then moving on. Because if we set, and I know a lot of us that are perfectionists, that are organizers, right? Like we get to that point where we're like, oh, I didn't do this perfect, or I didn't say this to this client, or why didn't I do this? And we question ourselves constantly, or at least I do, or I used to. And then you get to a point where you realize it's not about me. Like, it's just not about me. It's about them. And as long as they think I did a good job, and as long as I was present for them in those moments, that is all that matters.
Yeah. We had a training session with our coaches this morning, and we said, if you do nothing else but inject hope in their day,
you can feel good about it, right?
Because you might be the only breath of fresh air, the only light in their life. But the other part is what you're saying is you're creating that space that they won't create for themselves, whether it is talking through their own problems, or they just need a moment to focus on it and be in the moment. And they won't do that unless they have a session with you.
Yeah, right.
So just being there is good enough. And then also, if you can just try to give them perspective or some positivity, and we call it injecting hope, just speak a little life over them, then everything else is a bonus in our book.
Yeah.
Last night I had a session with a new client with the life coaching. So we were talking, and I got off of the call, and it had been like an hour and 15 minutes. And I looked back over that, and I was like, I think I asked like 6 questions and made maybe like 3 positive statements into her, but the rest was just her talking. Yeah. And for her, she was like, that was amazing, because people don't give themselves the time by themselves to process. And so that is the importance of being able to not only organize, but also life coach and all of the things, is being present for our clients and injecting that joy or hope or whatever we have for them. So thank you all so much for being on the podcast.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yes.
You have been listening to the Pro Organizers Coach podcast. Go to the show notes to find all of the links mentioned in this episode, and hit that subscribe and automatic download button so you don't miss a single thing. Thanks for listening.